May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. It was fine to sit earlier. I was just setting up recording. I'm trying this to see how it works, and when I get around to it, I post them. I've posted one so far. I've recorded 3. Today, we celebrate 2 kind of semi-church festivals. Rogation Sunday and Mother's Day, which in the church, when it's celebrated, isn't actually called Mother's Day. It's called Mothering Sunday, which actually I think is better than Mother's Day. Yes, it's good to celebrate mothers, but it's the mothering that we're celebrating. And that fits very well with the idea of rogation. Because what does it mean to be a mother? What does it mean to mother someone? Our gospel today is all about mothering. It's about love and abiding. And both of these words do not necessarily mean in this gospel what we think they mean. When we think of the word abide, what synonym comes to mind? What does it mean to abide? To stay by, to remain, to wait. All of these kind of are right. But there's an element of them that's not. We have a bunch of songs like Stay With Me, Lord Jesus Christ. Wait for the Lord. Abide in me. Abide in me is quite different from the other ones. It has an element of choice where the others are kind of commands. When you're told to stay or you choose to stay, it's just about where you are. Abiding is about taking part in where you are, which is kind of how it fits with rogation and with mothering. It's not just being there, but it's being part of there as well. It's a two-way thing. When you're a mother, you can't be a mother without someone to mother. And that doesn't necessarily have to be your child. And you don't necessarily have to be a woman to be a mother. It's a way of taking care, a choice to be part of the life of the one you're mothering. To put them above yourself, their care above your own, their well-being becomes first above all. And that's kind of why it fits with rogation as well, because in the idea of farming, not massive farming with big, huge corporations, but the farmer on his own land or her own land, taking care of the land, making sure that it doesn't just produce this year, but it will produce generations to come. That it will provide. You provide for the land and it provides for you. It's much more than just being there. And the love that's spoken in here, this isn't the love this isn't romantic love that Jesus is talking about. Abide in my love as I abide in you. This is the love that we choose to give. This is love that takes effort. Not just effort to maintain, but effort to achieve. This is the love for the people we don't like. This is the love that we have to go out of our way to make happen. That we have to let go of our own concerns to share with others. Some love is easy. We have no choice but to feel it. I'm not talking about the consequences of that love being easy. They're often not. But achieving that love is easy. It's there. We can't help it. It's visceral. It's who we are. The love Jesus is talking about here is not that love. This is the love that makes the world a better place because we set aside the things we don't like. We set aside the things that stand in the way. To choose to be part of the lives that are around us. To abide in the world. There's a big campaign going on right now. How many of you have heard of the Guardian newspaper out of Manchester, England? They have a huge online presence. And they've kind of upset the way that news is done in a lot of places by doing this. And right now, they're doing a major campaign about climate change. And trying to sort of re-engage people in it because it's just been made so impossible to do anything about and so pervasive that it feels like a lost cause. So they're trying to come up with ways that people can re-engage because they see that this is not just a question of, it's happening and eventually we've got to do something about it. It's more, if we don't do something about it, it could mean the end of humanity. So it's not just an issue, it is the issue. This is the kind of choice that Jesus is talking about, is abiding in the world. Making sure that we're not just part of the world, but that the world is part of us. Being a mother to creation. God chose to create the world. And with that choice, with his choice of how humanity was made, God took the risk that not all of humanity would be good. It would have been possible to make creation perfect, but then it would have no meaning. It's just a clockwork. It's nothing that you can abide in and be part of. There is risk in this kind of love. There is risk in this abiding, because it isn't always going to go the way you expect it to. The world is not predictable. People are not predictable. None of us are predictable. At least not in everything. So taking that choice has risk. One of the things that they're talking about in this push about climate change is the total fossil fuel reserves in the world. If climate change isn't to go past that there's a 2-degree rise they talk about as being the critical amount. To stop it from going beyond that, 75% of the fossil fuel reserves in the world need to stay in the ground. That's really hard for places like Canada, Saskatchewan, and Alberta that are so heavily dependent on oil for our economy. But what happens to our economy when climate stops working? It's not about just change, it's about the destruction of climate. As we've seen this year, climate it's not just getting warmer, it's getting weirder. It's not predictable. The changes in climate are making it much harder to farm. There are places where for a while it'll make it easier to farm, but right now here it's making it harder because we can't depend on what the rain is going to be like, where the water's going to go, when it's going to get dry. So how do we do this? How do we balance making good decisions for the world with making good decisions for our province, for our country? I don't have the answers. They have to be personal answers. And they have to be informed answers. There's a lot of information out there. A lot of it, and if you try to look at the information, the scientific information about climate change and keep a balanced view, you're going to fail. Because if you try to keep a balanced view, it doesn't keep in account that almost all of the scientists are on one side. And to get the balanced view, you have to give equal time to the ones on the other side. But there really is very little science that says this isn't a problem. But looking at the economics of climate change, looking at the climate issues, looking at what happens in this province, in our lives, if we try to change things, or if we let them continue as they are. Looking at who has the power and who is making certain voices heard more than others. That's what it means to abide in the world, is to make that effort. That's what it means to abide in our children's lives, is to make that effort to know what's going on, to be part of it, even if we don't agree with their choices. To inform, to support, to be with them when things crash, to let them make their mistakes. Our call here is to abide, not to stay, not to remain, not to wait, not to just be there, but to abide, to take part in the world around us, to take part in each other's lives. And I pray with God's help that we can make a difference for each other. We can make a difference for this province, for this community, for Canada, for the world. And I know that we will need God's help.